My friends and I discovered an old, abandoned farmhouse. It was in the middle of nowhere and quite peaceful. Little did we know that we were standing in the exact spot that would be known as the Farmhouse of Horror. During one of my frequent random drives to the middle of nowhere, on this very road in the video, I noticed an old white farmhouse that was down a long dirt driveway and partially covered by trees. Due to how overgrown the yard was, I was fairly certain that it was abandoned. Later that week, I mentioned the farmhouse to my friends and suggested that we go check it out. We liked going on little adventures like this, so I thought it would be the perfect place to explore. We decided to go back one afternoon and slowly venture up the driveway. We moved cautiously in case the farmhouse was in fact not abandoned. We didn't want to startle the occupants of the home if there was someone living there. As we carefully moved closer to the house, we saw for certain that it was abandoned. The windows and doors were boarded up, and it looked as if the yard hadn't been tended to in several years. We walked around the exterior of the house and were imagining how beautiful this place would have been back in the day. The farmhouse sat on a large piece of land, and the nearest neighbors were nowhere to be seen or heard. After spending a considerable amount of time looking at the house, we decided to leave. About a week later, my friends and I had each bought a BB gun. We were anxious to try them out, so I suggested bringing them to the abandoned farmhouse. There, we could freely play with our new toys and not have to worry about accidentally breaking a neighbor's window or scaring anybody with them. We then drove to the farmhouse, set up our targets, and put holes in cans for a couple hours. It was quite enjoyable being there, so we made a habit of hanging out at the house. We felt as if the farmhouse was ours and made ourselves quite comfortable while hanging out on the front porch. Due to our work schedule, we started going to the house late at night, sometimes well after midnight. We brought portable lights to help illuminate the area and then proceeded with our BB gun target practice. The thing about being in the middle of nowhere and away from the city lights is that nighttime is dark. Even though we had our portable lights, they only lit up our immediate area. Beyond that, it was nothing but pure darkness. We were sitting on the porch talking when all of a sudden we heard a loud slam from inside the house. It sounded like a door being angrily slammed shut or something falling over. It was loud enough that all the crickets in the area fell deadly silent, which added to the eeriness. The sound startled us enough to pack up our belongings and leave. One of my friends was convinced that it was a ghost of the farmhouse that didn't want us on the property. I, however, thought it could have been a squatter, or most probably just the sound of an old, creaky, abandoned farmhouse. No matter the cause of the sound, it was still unsettling, and we decided that it was time to leave. The odd sounds didn't stop us from returning to our farmhouse a few nights later. Upon our return, nothing out of the ordinary happened. We just set up like usual and hung out for a few hours. Our busy schedules soon prevented us from returning to our farmhouse. Weeks had passed and we hadn't returned, even though we had discussed going back in the near future. It was then that the news started reporting an eerie discovery. A construction crew found a newly constructed, unescapable confinement chamber had been built inside the basement of an abandoned farmhouse. Chills shivered down my spine when I saw pictures of the chamber, and even more so when I saw pictures of the farmhouse. Our farmhouse. The construction crew contacted the authorities, and at first they were not sure what to make of it. They thought that maybe it was a movie set that an independent filmmaker had built, but it turned out to be something a lot more sinister. I got in touch with my friends and told them about the reports. They were as shocked as I was to hear of this horrific discovery. So many thoughts crossed my mind. What if the builder of the chamber arrived while we were hanging out there? Or what if the builder was in the house while we were there, watching us, impatiently waiting for us to leave? Or to come inside? All of the possible scenarios were nothing short of nightmare fuel. The police had little evidence to investigate with. They found a shirt that was for a volunteer of a recent event, a soy milk carton with a recent expiry date and tools that were distinctly marked with red paint. Shortly after the discovery, the farmhouse mysteriously burned to the ground. While the police were investigating, they found that a security guard was patrolling the area approximately a year before. The guard took note of a suspicious vehicle. Due to the seclusion of the area, crime and shady happenings were quite frequent. Therefore, security would occasionally patrol the area. The security guard spotted a vehicle and waited for the owner to return. After the owner had not returned after some time, he decided to leave and returned later that night. When the guard returned, the car was gone. The security guard's observation is what ultimately led to the arrest of an individual. The police followed up on the license plate of the car, and they were led to a home of a man. The man's ex-wife spoke to the police at the residence. She informed them that the license plate was of her ex-husband's car. Not only was it his car, but the shirt that was found on scene was a shirt that he wore while volunteering at a recent event. He drank the same brand of soy milk that was found, and that he also used to mark his tools with red paint. When the police questioned the man, he confessed and admitted to building the horrific confinement chamber. He informed the police that he planned on kidnapping his ex-wife's friend and confining her inside the unescapable chamber. More information on this story can be found by searching Pickering, Ontario confinement chamber. I can't help to think about all the time my friends and I spent at the farmhouse. Meanwhile, quite literally, there was a nightmarish hell waiting right under our feet.